Dear students of class 10, today I like to actually rediscuss the civil disobedience movement, the last part. And a new type of questions may come in the examination. That's why I like to revise it or rediscuss it. See that we have discussed the non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement, and in brief, the Quit India movement. Civil disobedience, non-cooperation movement began in 1920-21, civil disobedience 1930, ended in 1934, and Quit India movement 1942. So, the compare between the non-cooperation movement, a question may come, compare between the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. How would you compare it? You see that if we compare in different fields, we have to classify in this way. You see that the non-cooperation movement began in 1920-21. It was, the resolution was passed in the Nagpur session and began in the large-scale demonstration or large-scale participation of the people. And even we see that the Muslims also joined in large number because it was known as non-cooperation Khilafat movement. So in support of the Khilafat question, non-cooperation movement began, and so large-scale participation of the Muslim or Khilafatists supported it. While see that the civil disobedience movement began in 1930, we know that it began in the form of symbolic salt satyagraha. See that the large-scale participation of the people not in the beginning, but symbolic. Gandhiji started it in the form of Dandi March or short satyagraha in the year 1930, 12th March. And afterwards, the movement got the popular support. And it did not get the Muslim support. Muslim participation in the civil disobedience movement was lukewarm, while it was enthusiastic in the civil disobedience. The Muslim participation was large in number. The large number of women did not participate in it, in the non-cooperation movement, but a large number of women participated in, see that from different sections, different classes, like the rich peasants, the village area and the city area, urban area participated in the civil disobedience movement. We see that the idea of Swaraj was adopted as a program of the non-cooperation movement, but it is not complete independence at that time, Purna Swaraj. The idea of Swaraj was adopted in the civil disobedience movement, which was passed in the Lahore Congress by Jawaharlal Nehru. It was known as complete independence. So idea of Swaraj was quite different in civil disobedience movement. It was meant for complete independence. It was adopted that Swaraj means complete independence. Now we see that the movement was suspended in 1922 after the Chori Chora incident. Similarly, the civil disobedience movement was suspended after the Gandhian Pact signed in 1931. But again, civil disobedience movement was resumed when Gandhi returned from London after the failure of Second Round Table Conference. It was resumed again, second phase of the civil disobedience movement. That is in 1932. And see that it continued up to 1934. But non-cooperation movement was suspended by Gandhiji in 1922. It was not resumed again. We see that moreover, the participation of the industrial class was rich merchants or industrialists, and also the rich peasants, working class, much bigger. They joined in the civil disobedience movement in large number, although they did not support it later. However, all the participation of the peasants supported it, but we do not find working class in the non-cooperation movement. Working class supported Nagpur strike, rail strike, and also dock strike in 1932 supporting the civil disobedience movement. And the industrialists like that the rich merchants or industrialists supported it. But it is not the same case. However, we see that these are some of the differences between the non-cooperation and civil disobedience movement. And you see that the participation of I can say that Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan of Northwestern Frontier Province, popularly known as Frontier Gandhi, supported it. But this was not happened. This did not happen in the case of non-cooperation. And so these are we see that the Pune Pact, communal award was declared. Ultimately, after the Pune Pact was signed, it was signed between the B.R. Ambedkar and Gandhiji. But this type of horizon development movement, individual civil satyagraha, which was the part of the civil disobedience movement, individual civil satyagraha, horizon upliftment, see that similarly the communal award, which was in the second phase of the civil disobedience movement, we can also notice it, or we can see as a new feature. However, these are the things. And now, what was the importance of the civil disobedience movement? We have discussed earlier what were the limitations of the movement. Already I have discussed it. What were the limitations of the civil disobedience movement? Now, what was its importance? Importance is the second mass participation, large-scale participation it is actually second mass agitation. First mass agitation was the non-cooperation. It was the second mass or people's agitation. It was also, we see that the movement, also large-scale peasants, different sections of society supported it, like the rich peasants, poor peasants, working class, industrialists, supported it. That the peasants also organized no rent campaign, no tax campaign in support of the movement, and they also fought against the domination of British rule. And now we see that moreover we can see the large-scale participation of women for the first time in the civil disobedience movement. Similarly, it was the movement spreaded throughout India. And although it began in the form of short satyagraha, the movement actually became popular and later it spread throughout India. And Indian National Congress, see that organized the movement under its able leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. However, these are some of the importance of the civil disobedience movement. Now, next, we see that what is sense of collective belonging. You know that the sense of collective belonging in this topic, the nationalism, that we have seen in earlier, how nationalism spreads. We see that in the rise of nationalism in Europe, we have found the nationalism spreads also through warfare. But not only the warfare and the battle did not. You see that Bismarck unified Germany through 3 wars. That is how we see that the nationalism was established in Germany, national unity, or Germany used as a nation state. Similarly, we see that in nationalism in India, how it was similarly we have I have discussed earlier what is romantic nationalism, how did culture play an important role in unifying the people. Culture meaning the music, songs, folklore, folk dance, language, local language, etc. So these things, see that the plays, dramas, they played an important role in unifying the national spirit or romantic nationalism in Europe. I have discussed earlier how Johann Gottfried Herder unified through the idea of Das Volk, and how you see that the Karol Kurpunski through his Majorika, and you see that many other, similarly the Polish language played an important role in the unification of Poland. See, we see that the nationalism also spreads when people began to believe that they are all part of the same nation, and when they discover some unity that binds them together, this sense of collective belonging came partly through the experience of united struggles. So how this nationalism in India also began through not only through the movements of the different classes, but also you see that the movement organized by Gandhiji or Indian National Congress, but also it came, the national idea of nationalism came through the cultural process. There are varieties of cultural process through which nationalism also captured the imagination of the people or people's imagination. What are they? Namely history and fiction, folklore and songs, dramas or music or plays and music or dramas, popular prints and symbols. All these things played an important role in the development of nationalism in India. Now, we see that already I have discussed the identity of the nation through an allegory. Allegory is it means it was the development of sense of idea through a symbol or a person or a symbol. You see that similarly the identity of the Indian nation symbolized in a figure or image. In Germany, we have seen Germania. She was conceived, although there is no reality, you see that she does not stand for real world or real life, the Germania. Or Marion in France, also she does not even see that she was adopted as a female figure. Marion was a female figure to symbolize liberty, like red cap, you see the broken chain and coquette. Whatever it may be, similarly, in India, Bharat Mata was conceived as a symbol of unity, as an image as was conceived by the German people through Germania, as was conceived by the French people through Marion. So, see that the ideas of nationalism, we see that how the Bharat Mata was, the idea of Bharat Mata was first given by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. The idea was first conceived by him. And in 1870s, it was in Ananda Math, you see that he reflected it through a song called Bande Mataram, the hymn, I should say it is hymn to Bande Mataram. And during the Swadeshi movement, it became very popular, the Ananda Math or Bande Mataram sung. And now, impressed by this, you see the Abanindranath Tagore, the great artist of the time, portrayed or painted Bharat Mata as a symbol of Indian nationalism. Now it was, see that the idea, she is very, you see that you have seen the picture, she is calm, quiet and divine, you see that the idea and spirituality in his, you see that the complexion, in his stature there is a spirituality, there is a divine form, it is actually symbolizes divine form or divinity, calm and composed, etc. Now the idea of Bharat Mata was also later painted by different artists in different way, like Raja Ravi Verma. Now we can see the ideas of nationalism also developed through a movement to revive Indian folklore. Idea of nationalism also developed through a movement through Indian folklore. You know the folk tales. And in the late 19th century, the Indian nationalists now, a group of Indian nationalists now began recording the folk tales, and they toured the villages and they collected the folk tales and you see that the legends of Indian history, and thus we see that they wanted to glorify the India's past in this way. Rabindranath Tagore is also began to collect you see that what I should say, the legends, the ballads and the folklore, etc. Thus, Rabindranath Tagore in Bengal also took pioneering role in reviving the folklore. Similarly, the folklore was revived in South India by Natesa Shastri. In his book, the book, you see that the name of the book was The Folklore of Southern India. In 4 volumes, the folklore of southern India, he collected it. It glorifies the symbol, folklore or folk tales of the South Indian culture. Now, another important thing is that another way how you see that it was created, the nationalism was created through a feeling of nationalism. It was created through a feeling of nationalism through icons and symbols. Icons mean image or symbols. How was it created? It was created during the Swadeshi movement. You know the Swadeshi flag, it had 8 lotuses, you know that and you see that which represented the 8 British provinces at that time, and there is a crescent which symbolizes the Hindu-Muslim idea. And we see that similarly we can see in 1921, Gandhiji also adopted the Swaraj flag, and it also the 3 colors, red, yellow and green, red, white and green, we see that and also it has a symbol in the middle of the flag, there is a symbol of spinning wheel, which actually made the national resurgence, symbol of national resurgence or self-sufficiency of Indian economy. So that you know that India, in this way, the icons and images were used. Another means of creating nationalism was the history, nationalism through reinterpretation of history. Another means of creating feeling of nationalism was reinterpretation of history. Now, dear students, we see that another means of creating feeling of nationalism was through reinterpretation of history. We see that we generally do not look into the past. At that time, the British interpreted the Indian history in their own ways. You see that they did not glorify our ancient past culture and heritage. They called us the primitive and backward, and you know that the culture and civilization of Indian, see that the people are very backward. So our Indian nationalist historians or nationalist leaders wanted to look into the past. You see that why they wanted to look into the past? To discover the India's ancient glories and culture, ancient culture and heritage. You see that what does it reflect? If we actually go through the ancient period of Indian history, we can find the glorious development in India's greatest achievements in the art, architecture, science and mathematics, and religion and culture, law and philosophy, and etc., and crafts and trades and other fields. So this is the thing we can rediscover, we can glorify our India's past, our ancient culture, and thus we can see that we can actually stop we can stop the miserable condition we are facing during the British rule. And that is why we have to actually develop our own national pride, our India's own pride and culture, so that we can actually discover ourselves and fight the British superiority as a race. This is how we see that moreover, one thing I should have mentioned earlier, that dramas and music also played an important role in the development of culture. You see that I can mention here that during the Swadeshi movement, Rabindranath Tagore composed many national songs, and also Rajinikanth Sen and many other similar literatures, poets, and they composed many songs which glorified the Indian culture. They actually, moreover, the dramas and plays were also written at that time. For example, Nil Darpan by Dinabandhu Mitra, and many other such dramas and books, or the novels also played an important role in the development of sense of nationalism, national consciousness among the people of India. However, we see that this is how the civil disobedience movement played an important role in the national struggle for freedom. Gandhiji, the participated it, and under the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Gandhiji played an important role in this struggle. Although the different social groups participated with different aspirations, still they all supported the Indian National Congress, and their sole the enemy was the British. And that is, thank you, and I shall discuss it. If it is there is a doubt, I shall discuss it later.